After your mayor's campaign, did you believe at that time your public life was going to end, or did you see another door opening at that time?
I was quite sure it was ended, and I think my wife was happy it was ended and that we were going to be normal people and not have to go to 1,000 rubber chicken dinners and whatever else. So, yeah, I fully expected when I went back again to Birch Porter that to practice normal law that was the last opportunity I was going to have to be in public service.
And then you get the call to be Attorney General of Tennessee.
Right.
When did that happen, Mike?
Let's see. 1984, be the summer of so I came back. 82 was the election. Came back, so I was a lawyer from 83, and then back into 84. You see why I wasn't much lawyer? I didn't spend much time really being a lawyer. And I got a call. In Tennessee, the Supreme Court appoints the Attorney General, and Bill Leach there'd been nothing public about it, but I got a call from Bill Phones, who was the Memphis, West Tennessee representative on the Tennessee Supreme Court, and he said that Bill Leach had just informed the court that he was going to retire and that they wanted to pick someone else to be the new Attorney General, and they wanted to do it before news of Leach retiring was public because they wanted to get the person they wanted. And they said, the court's met and we'd like you to be the Attorney General. So and the first thing I said, because we just bought a new house in Hind Park, Center Drive, and just moved in, I said, well, do I have to move to Nashville? He said, yeah. And I said, well, how much does it pay? He said, $60,000. I said, well, I got 2 kids in college. I said, well, okay, how long do I have to think about it and let y'all know? He said, well, this is the morning. I'd been shaving, just came to go down and have breakfast. He said, well, you need to let us know by lunch.
They gave you some time.
So I sat Susie down and said, well, here we go again. She said, what do you mean? We just moved in a new house? We're going to have to move to Nashville. I have a court reporting practice here in Memphis. I said, well, I want to do it. So she went along with me, and we packed up, and I moved there in 84 and stayed as Attorney General until 88, and only left then because with one child at the University of Virginia and one at Center College, tuition coming off at $60,000 didn't leave us enough to live on without borrowing money, so I decided I'd had enough fun.
Prior to getting this phone call in 1984, had it ever occurred to you that you might want to be Attorney General of Tennessee?
No.
Not on your radar screen, huh?
No, I couldn't have found the office if anybody told me to go to Nashville and find the Attorney General. So I wouldn't have known what it is. I had heard of Bill Leach as a lawyer. I knew some of the ones that had been Attorney General, but the only time I ever seriously thought about the Attorney General when I looked at one of the Tennessee reports and they had their names on them. I said, what does that do? Oh, he's Attorney General. But no, I didn't know anything about it. And, I think I'm one of these kind of blink people. I don't really think carefully about making intelligent, long-range, advanced, prepared decisions. Why Chandler resigns and I'm running for mayor, or, the coach tells me I don't want to go to graduate school, I go to law school, or, whatever. I did it, and so I got to live with it once I did it. But it's the best job I ever had.
You like that more than any other job you had?
Twice as good as any other job I ever had, including being U.S. Attorney for 4 years.
And why was that?
It just fit me better, the kind of things I enjoyed doing and the things I felt like I could do Well, U.S. Attorney's job was a good job, but it's all prosecution. That's the big thing, criminal prosecutions. The AG's job was criminal, but it was also civil. For instance, no other job could have given me an opportunity to argue personally 4 cases in the United States Supreme Court, because you just don't get those cases in the private practice. In the federal job, the U.S. Solicitor General argue those cases. So those are the kind of things I say. And the other is, it was the largest office I had ever had to run, and I enjoy sort of the administrative side of that type job. And if I've got a talent, it is having good people around me that are super good lawyers and letting them do their job. Any success I've ever accomplished, it's because I've been around good people who did good jobs, and I got credit for it because I was at the top of the letterhead or whatever it was. And so that, working with those kind of people was wonderful.
Tennessee has a unique AG's position in that, as you say, it's appointed by the Supreme Court. Right. In your case, fairly quickly appointed by the Supreme Court. As you know, there is some talk in the legislature now about making that an elected position as opposed to an appointed position. How do you feel about that?
Well, you can guess I'm against it. Otherwise, I never would have been in the job, because I've shown by running for mayor I couldn't have gotten elected mayor, and I couldn't have gotten elected attorney general. Having said that, though, and also you have to say, how can Tennessee say it's the best way of doing it when every other state does it some other way? That's a hard argument to run against. From my experience, though, what's happening today, not only in AG races, but judicial races, and even in some of our local court clerk races, you're not having the best lawyers being put into positions where they ought to be put, but you're having people who are the right political persuasion for the extreme side of whatever political party is doing it, and you're having massive amounts of money being put into judicial races and attorney general's races where they're elected all over the country, and that is going to destroy eventually the integrity. You see, an attorney general is not like a legislator. If you are an attorney general, you're likely to have to bring a consumer class action lawsuit against one of the biggest corporations in the state. And if that corporation has been one of your biggest financial backers in order to get you elected, that's a bad system. And I see it happening. Today, I'm the chairman of all the former attorney generals. So I meet with these attorney generals 3 or 4 times every year, and I see what's happening. And the office is being more and more politicized, and you're getting less good lawyers and more people who may have been Speaker of the Senate or Lieutenant Governor who want another position to run for, and you're not getting the kinds of lawyers you used to, even in the old elective system where that much money wasn't being put in the races. And the judicial thing will happen the same way if we don't stop it. I don't know, think of a movie star, a rock star could get elected to the Supreme Court of Tennessee, or somebody that's Justin Timberlake, if he wanted to be on the Supreme Court, could get elected, or somebody that has access to $20 or $30 million they can spend to have a billboard all over the state, they can be on the Supreme Court. That's not the kind of people we want on the Supreme Court. My singular appearance, and that applies to the AG's job too.
Let's talk about your life after the AG's, after you left the AG's office. Back at Birch Porter?
Back in Birch Porter, but I skipped a year.
There you go, okay.
I forgot. You're tricking me up there with that question.
I wasn't trying to ask.
And I shouldn't forget it because it's a very important year and I made a lot of dear friends. My idea was we'd made this big move to Memphis. By that time, my wife was happy in Nashville. We had a nice house in Nashville, made a lot of new nice friends. And if I was going to be a, quote, lawyer in Nashville, I might as well utilize the skills and contacts and whatever, having been attorney general, lobbying kind of work, whatever people like that do, and live there in the state capital. And it was a much better economic choice. And I had a lot of friends over at Bass Berry, which was, in my way of thinking, one of the finest law firms in the state. Really great people there, including Bob Cooper, who's now the Attorney General, a guy named Frank Gorell, Lee Barfield, many others that were dear friends of mine. And they made the argument that logically I ought to stay in Nashville to practice law and not go back to Memphis, because in Memphis, first of all, when you're in Nashville, everybody calls you general because they knew what the Attorney General is. You go out in Memphis, if you say you're a general, unless you're Al Harvey, they don't know what you're talking about, see? They think, well, this guy been general. When was he in the Army? So they say everything related to what you've been doing is Nashville. And so we said, that's right. So I stayed for a year, and then, as you might imagine, after living the rest of my life here in Memphis, we just got homesick. And I missed the law firm. I missed the people here. We missed our families. We missed the neighborhoods, and we came back after a year.
I've been remiss to ask you about your family, but I wanted to ask about that toward the end because I think it's, in many respects, the most important topic. You have how many children?
3.
And they are, you've got a gap between the second and the third.
Yeah, a big gap, yeah, a big gap, and a gap between the wives. I was married first in 1962 and had 2 children. The wife of those 2 children, we got divorced and she's no longer living. My present wife and I have been married 30-ish years, and we have 1 child. Now, the 2 children by the previous marriage are daughter 47, a son.
Her name is?
Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Jane Cody. She lives in New Mexico, has for 20 years. She graduated the University of Virginia, undergraduate, teaches school out there, and has 3 children. 2 boys that are still in school out in New Mexico, and my oldest granddaughter, oldest grandchild, is a sophomore at Tulane. So then, fast forward until those kids are all grown up. I got grandkids. 1996, I'm 60 years old, and Susie and I don't have any children, and so we go to Russia and adopt a little girl who's 2 years old, who's now her own self 18 and a freshman in college.
I'm going to ask her about her.
So there is a big gap there. You're right about that.
Your son's name?
My son's name's Michael. Well, we're not going to get in this Walter James Michael Cody again. But when this came up, my father was still living. And all he insisted in, he didn't insist on a 4th, but he insisted on Walter James still being in the name. So my son's official name on his birth certificate is Michael Walter James Cody. So he doesn't have to have he can choose anything he wants to, and they're real names.
And he lives where?
Well, until today, he's been living all over the country. His wife is an executive with International Paper, and they've lived since they got married. He's, of course, Memphis, graduated from MUS here in Memphis, went to Center College, and they've lived in Brussels, White Plains, New York, Alexandria, Louisiana, Hugo, Oklahoma. They're now in Paris, Texas, but are driving today back to Memphis, where she's been promoted to the headquarters here in Memphis, so they're coming back to Memphis to live.
Now, I interrupted about your daughter, about your younger daughter.
Younger daughter. Well, we don't have more than 6 more hours to talk, do we? Because I could fill it all up with her. Yeah, her name is Mia Tatiana Cody. She's 18, and she's sort of the star of the show.
And she's in school at?
University of Memphis, Graphic Arts Photography Department. Graduated from Lausanne High School here in Memphis last spring.
Now, on your wrist, you're wearing something on your wrist.
That's right. This is a magic bracelet that allows me to talk for 3.5 hours without losing my voice. Now, since she was a little girl, she likes Mia. I'm talking about my last one. She likes to make these little bracelets while she's watching TV or whatever, and so she's made them over the years. Now that I've gotten sophisticated enough to ask for the colors, I tell her to make me one that has the Rhodes College black and red, and University of Virginia blue and gold. And the significance of this first bracelet, it was originally the original bracelet of those colors, but it's about to fall apart. So before she saw this one fall apart, she made this other one. So in a few months or weeks, when this one falls apart, this one will take over and I'll only have one. Now, I know that's a very interesting story to anyone who may fall upon this DVD.
It's good stuff, Mike. What's the future for Mike Cody?
Hope to live a while. That's the biggest future. I'm enjoying practicing law. I like what I'm doing. Again, I don't practice much law. Half of my time is spent representing companies that have problems with regulators, international companies that have state AGs, FDA, FTC, problems where they need someone with a government background to help them go through those systems. And so I spend a lot of time doing that. The other half, I'm a mediator or an arbitrator, and I really like the arbitration, mediation less so, because it's a lot harder work than being an arbitrator. But I love the arbitration. You know, when I say the Attorney General's best law job I ever had, being an arbitrator is getting close to it.
And what is it about being an arbitrator that you like?
First of all, it's easier. It's an easier job, just like being an Attorney General. You know, you got 100 people and you got an interesting case, and you let some smart lawyer work on it, and you get interested in it, do what you want to on it, and do it. Arbitrators like that. I've got a 3-panel of arbitrators. I've got one now. We spent 2 weeks in Louisville hearing a trial. One arbitrator in Chattanooga, one from Minneapolis. I'm from Memphis. It's a great thing. It's just pleasant. It's got a lot of research, a lot of just good duty.
Mike, is there anything else you wish I had asked you and you would like to tell us?
Bill, I can't think of anything. Maybe, I'm 75 now. Maybe when we get 100, I'll have a few more things. I'll call you up and get you to put an addendum on the end of it. I worry a little bit. You know, older lawyers worry. I had a guy I admired. You may know him, Clark Clifford. And he was a great lawyer all his life. And then he got to be about 75, and he got into some deal where they offered him a whole lot of money, where he's going to be involved in some bank operation that he didn't really understand, but he thought it was a good gig and paid a lot of money. And he fell into a trap and got in a lot of trouble. My biggest worry now at 75 is I can protect what little reputation I've built up over the first 50 years and not lose it in the next 25.
What's been, final question, in your career, what have you enjoyed the most, and why is it that you enjoyed that the most?
the opportunity that the profession has given me to do interesting things and to have interesting friends involved in it. People I respect and admire and enjoy being with.
Okay, we've got another interview scheduled in 25 years.
25 years, whatever.
That's
You have
20,
to figure out when that is. And it has to be handicapped
2037.
accessible.
2037.
2037.
You and Ed Murphy and I will meet for a run that morning, too.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Okay.